Guten Tag, meine
Well, good morning,
Damen, meine
ladies
Herren.
and gentlemen.
Ich darf Sie recht herzlich
Let me welcome you
begrüßen zu
most
unserem
cordially
ersten
to our
Vortrag,
first lecture.
der sich mit dem Thema
This is
Labeling
dedicated
und
to
Ecodesign
labeling and
Anforderungen
eco-design
im Bereich der
requirements
Heizungstechnik
in the field of
auseinandersetzt.
heating technology.
Mein Name ist Lothar
My name is Lothar Breidenbach. I'm Managing Director Technology in the Federal Association of the German Heating Industry, and we are very much affected by this new EU regulation, which becomes effective as of 26th of September. Let's make a head start with the general criteria, eco-design labeling. This is not very new. You know labeling from the whiteware, from fridges or brownware, TV sets and the like. Eco-design requirements we've also had for quite a while. There are two framework directives from 2009 and 2010. But first, as the name says, it only sets the framework for certain products which are affected. And then within the framework of further EU regulations, criteria for labeling or eco-design requirements for individual products are set. With that, I want to explain the difference for that matter, because this is mixed up time and again, because there's talk of eco-design label, but there are two different legal norms. On one hand, eco-design with provisions regarding eco-design, hence regarding energy efficiency of a product, regarding emissions, for example, in gas or fuel, heating boilers, NOx, but also regarding material and the disposal of products. And energy efficiency label is known from fridges, TV sets, and the like. Hence, I need not talk about that in further detail. Here you can see the products affected by the labeling directive, respectively the eco-design directive, which is partially implemented already, and the rest will come in the near future. Here I've just listed those products regarding the heating area, lot 1. That's a product group on one hand. Heating boilers, heat generators, batch 2, hot water preparation equipment, but we also have other products, batch 10, it's now called batch 5, ventilation, HVAC, that will come next year, but also e-motors, pumps, ventilators. This stipulates that only high-efficiency pumps may be used in Germany. Regarding pumps, there's no label anymore, because the yardstick for requirements is already very high. It's not worthwhile anymore. You don't have a real chance to distinguish products. But this is one example of provision which is known here. And well, it was derived from the eco-design directive. In the near future, we'll also get a label and eco-design requirements for solid fuel boilers and also local heating products, predominantly the coal-based ovens, but also fuel and gas ovens, which will also come in the near future. Now the product groups, lot 1, lot 2, which products are affected. Well, on the one hand, lot 1, those are the room heating heaters. Those are the heat generators, including gas and oil furnaces. Then regarding the requirements, where you can see CE in the middle, and the label 0 to 70 kW. The range is a bit restricted because in large heat generators, the customer is no longer the one taking the decision, but this is rather the decision of the room planner, and therefore it doesn't make sense to have a label for a final customer. But we also have KWK stations, hence mini or micro stations, or combined heat and power generators, also in the range up to 400 kW. Similarly, regarding the eco-design requirements, 70 kW for the label, but then there's also an ancillary requirement that is 50 kW of electric output. This is known through the KWK law in Germany. Germany. We have heat pumps in the same power range. This is subdivided into low temperature heat pumps and normal heat pumps, and I'll come back to the difference of that in a minute. And there are also heating components belonging to that. That's something we only have regarding these two product groups. And product packages can also be composed, for example, a gas heating boiler with a solar storage and a collector, and the energy efficiency class can thus be enhanced. I'll come back to this in further detail later. Regarding hot water storages, product group 2, we talk about the conventional hot water generators like throughput heaters, gas throughput heaters, which we don't have that frequently anymore in floor heating of buildings. Well, the equipment is renewed rather, but then there are also electric variants, but there's also service water pumps or solar-operated hot water generators, but that is rather for the southern European countries. You know, those countries, storages mounted to a collector and an electric heating rod or a gas device for reheating. At the end, hot water storage, that also belongs to product group 2, lot 2. There will be a label for storage below 500 liters and eco-design requirements below 2,000 liters. But I'll also come back to that in a minute. Well, it's kind of painstaking, but as of the 26th of September, when this becomes valid, we also need to get accustomed to new terms and notions stemming from this regulation, and also the requirements are linked to those notions. To the left-hand side, there are room heaters. It says a so-called seasonally conditioned room heating energy efficiency at a S. So we still need to think about it, how to shorten this, because it can thus not be handled. But this is the degree of efficiency used for the label and also regarding eco-design requirements. Let me describe it related to a gas heater. Before we had an efficiency rate up to 109, 110, 111%. Then we gradually moved over to the upper level of heating, and 98 and 99% could be reached in practice. And here a gas heating device can only be reached 93%. Now, what's the reason? There are other parameters like power consumption, which is also calculated as one factor. There's a primary energy factor of 2.5, and the equipments don't have a control. Hence, 3% are deducted. But then through the package label, these percentages can be caught back. And thus, a gas heater, a calorific heater, can only reach 93% according to the new calculation method. To the right-hand side, the notions we have for hot water storage and hot water preparation. That is the energy efficiency for hot water preparation, and the warm hot keeping losses, LS for short. That is nothing new in Germany and Europe. That the standstill loss of the storage, which is a pity also regarding the requirements, because only the insulation of the storage is considered. Other more modern product properties of a storage, like, for example, modern stratified charging technology, cannot be reflected in the label. So we have to be careful regarding the meaningful nature of this. In the hot water preparation storage efficiency, separate chart for that matter can be seen here. You can see the different load profiles. Ranging from 3XS, ML, XL, 4XL, that follows the sizes of clothes. And for a typical one-family dwelling, load cases M and L would be applicable. there would be a heat requirement related to the day of 5.8 kW in M or 11.7 kW in L. Above, you can see individual symbols which illustrate what can then be used in terms of taps. In M, it's a dishwasher with temperature up to 75 degrees centigrade. That should be possible at least. Then on top, 2 showers and the load profile L. This includes 2 bathtubs. Hence, the hot water consumption and the comfort are ever increasing. And in order to find out this degree of efficiency, the manufacturers need to develop various tap profiles through the day and measure the energy in doing so, no matter whether it's gas, oil, or electric power, and then this is put in ratio to the useful heat, QREF, 5.8 kW in M or 11.7 in L, and that produces this degree of efficiency. Well, we need to get used to this. Of course, it's very demanding for the manufacturers. But before, we only had individual degrees of efficiency in full load. For hot water preparation, there was nothing. Hence, these are terms which we first need to get used to for a start. Let's proceed with the eco-design requirements, and then I'll talk about the label. Eco-design requirements can be concluded relatively quickly, at least regarding the German listeners, apart from one thing, which is also important, because we'll get regulations for calorific value, which doesn't change that much. Regarding gas and oil-fired boilers, so there's also a trend towards calorific value. But as of the 26th of September 2015, as I said, everything is focused on the new definitions, the new degree of efficiency. But as a result, this means that no low-temperature burners may be used anymore. Maybe in floor-standing oil heaters, there may be exceptions. For gas, there is only one example, namely a gas low-temperature boiler without fan, so-called B1 equipment. Those with flow control, there's an output of 10 kW for heating and 30 kW for hot water preparation, for which we have an exceptional rule if the so-called B1 equipment is connected to chimneys which are used in a multiple way. There's no other possibility because there are no free chimneys to use an exhaust gas pipe for a condensing burner. So the only possibility is to replace the equipment, and for that we have exceptions. Regarding the emission requirements, or maybe back to efficiency requirements first, we also have these combined stations and heat pumps, but in Germany and in Europe they are so efficient that there's no impact on the products offered anymore. So they can still be sold. But there are emission requirements to gas and oil boilers, NOx requirements, which don't have an impact on the German market because we have provisions for gas, 56 milligram per kilowatt hour related to the calorific value. In Germany, we have 60 milligram per kilowatt hour for the heating value. Hence, for the German market, where low NOx technology has been around for years since we had the first BIMSCH provisions, but for southern and eastern European countries, this is important because we need an adjustment to what we have had in Germany. So, hence, the low NOx technology will then also be based on law. There are further requirements regarding sound emission for heat pumps, which is not listed here, but normally the heat pumps sold in Europe and in Germany fulfill these preconditions. Let's proceed with the label. There are 4 different labels for room heating devices. To the left, the gas and oil heating boilers. I'll explain the details later. Second, from the left, mini KWK. facilities. To the right, the two heat pump types. You see a temperature scale at the top, 55 and 35 degrees centigrade. To the very right, you only find 35 degrees. Therefore, this heat pump is also called low-temperature heat pump. This is due to the fact that in low-temperature heat pumps, specific efficiency requirements for 55 degrees and 52 degrees cannot be abided by. Hence, to put it in inverted commas, these pumps are less demanding, but we need to be cautious because in new buildings you may also operate heat pumps with low system temperatures. In heaters, then you don't need the high temperatures, and then the COP values are better. And this equipment regarding these kinds of uses have high efficiency values, but they should be used in non-insulated existing buildings. In the heat pumps, we have different climate zones. Europe has been broken down into three regions. There's center, that is location in Strasbourg, then north with Helsinki, and south with Athens. Logically enough, for heat pumps, this is meaningful regarding energy efficiency, and therefore we have three values. You see it in the lower part regarding the output, and in specific data sheets, you also see the energy efficiency. But regarding grouping in any energy efficiency class, the Strasbourg location is decisive. It cannot be done otherwise. Otherwise, it would become very non-transparent. Let's take a closer look at one label, just as an example for a label of a gas and oil-fired boiler. Under 1 and 2 at the top, there is information about the product, the manufacturer to the left, and also the model denomination. Then to the top left-hand corner, you find a heater. That is the symbol for the function of building heating, room heating. There's also a tap for hot water preparation or storage for hot water storage. But here we only talk about the heating of building. Then there is scaling. D to A2 plus, you will be astonished that we have more than 7 classes, normally only 7 classes wide, but in the second step, in 2019, a few classes would be deleted at the bottom. At the same time, A3 plus would be introduced, and then we would have a label from D to A3 plus. I left it out in my talk because this makes things too complicated. And I said it will also be valid as of 2019, a few years to go. To the right, the letter A, a typical condensing burner, that is for the categorization of the product. To the right-hand bottom corner, the nominal output of the product in kW, and then there's also information about sound level in rooms, or if you have heat pumps with an external part, the sound level outside, but this is only for information's sake for the time being. Here you see a typical categorization of the products. To the left, the natural gas fuel option. To the right, electric power. The condensing burner will range in category A, which was wanted in the beginning, namely products with fossil energy sources being used in high efficiency cannot go beyond A. But now there are a few exceptions already, and if you use renewable energy or these KWK stations and you generate power, you can reach more. And therefore, above the condensing burner in A plus and A2 plus, you find the KWK stations and the gas heat pumps, and maybe even oil heating pumps in the future, which also use a portion of renewable energy and they generate power. To the left, at the bottom, the condensing burners in the range of CD, be the standard or an improved standard heating boiler, which has been prohibited in Germany since 1998 for an NT boiler. To the right, the electric power variants, the air-water heat pumps range between A+ and A2+, and the brine water heat pumps in the range A2+ and A3+. As a footnote, I also mentioned that A3+ will only become effective as of the 26th of September 2019. Hence, brine water heat pumps until then will only have A2+. Here, however, I should mention right now that we keep assuming that the stations are operated in an optimal way. Hence, we don't have a clue whether the values are achieved in practice. Hence, in an air-water pump which reaches A2+, if it is operated in 1970, it will only range in CD in terms of real CD efficiency class. So for the planner and the fitter need to counsel the final customer to make sure that the well-labeled product is used in an efficient way. Otherwise, you will be surprised regarding heating costs. There are also combined labels. In Germany, we have many products, both providing heat for building heating and for water heating, and they have two scales, but this only goes for the gas oil devices and for the heat pumps, not for the KWK and not for the low temperature heat pumps either. As a deviation from the other labels, there are also so-called package labels or labels of a combined station. Now, for example, if you have a condensing burner reaching efficiency class A, you can equip this boiler with further components in combination, and thus you achieve a better energy efficiency class. This is not only a voluntary thing, but even an obligation of the craftspeople and the dealers offering such product packages. So if such things are offered, the efficiency class of the package of the product must be shown. To the left, you can see that you need to tick where the component is included. To the right, you can see the labels regarding classification. This reaches up to A3+, hence regarding the use of a brine water pump, you can reach A3+. You can see here how it works. The simple schemes for calculation, sometimes too simple, but if you were to make it more complex, you cannot realize it anymore, because these also need to be done by the craftspeople. And for example, if all product components come from one system supplier or manufacturer, it can be done on site. But if components of various manufacturers are used on site, the craftspeople or the wholesalers need to do it. So it should be simple enough to handle it. Here an example of such a condensing burner with a control, with a solar collector, with a solar station, and a solar-operated hot water storage. You'll find the respective products to the left-hand side. The original condensing burner has a degree of efficiency of 92%, for example. By a weather-guided control, you can add 3 percentage points. Then the solar station contributes 11%, and thus you reach 106% in this example. And the originally A-labeled boiler then becomes A+. It's being upvalued. It's an obligation to do it, but if you use solar thermal energy in combination with gas and oil, this is also a tool by means of which the boiler can be upgraded. Now, let's talk about the area of hot water preparation and storage. I showed it in the overview of the products concerned, but here you see it listed once again. And so a hot water preparation with an output of 4 kW, throughput heaters, hot water storage, gas air heaters, or the so-called directly heated hot water storage facilities, where a small burner is attached. This is included. And regarding the storage up to 2,000 liters, at the bottom you find the requirements, respectively the output ranges for the label. This is smaller, equal to 70 kW, and regarding the storage up to 500 liters. Here the labels, it's kind of unfortunate. You can only go up to A as maximum, which is kind of confusing, because in other areas in the package label you can go to A3+, in the room heaters A2+. So this is kind of unfortunate, and well, you of course need to communicate this to the consumers. The labels to the right-hand side, hot water storage, next to it, hot water storage with heat pump, hence a service water pump. To the left, a conventional hot water preparation and the hot water storage facilities. There's also a package label here, but you can only use solar thermal energy and not a controller. And as a result of this, for example, if you have a condensing burner with solar thermal energy, you can achieve A+, maybe even A2+. To the right-hand side, you see the calculation schemes, which are relatively simple, but logically enough, this will be handled electronically anyway in the near future. And if everything is provided by one system supplier, the craftspeople only need to pass it on this basis. Well, let me now give you my conclusion and a quick summary of what should be observed. As I have said already, there are components which are part and parcel of the system, of a hydraulic heating system or of a hot water preparation system. In a freeze or a TV set, it's easier. There's a plug, a socket, and a black box. And the fridge and the TV set is a product in itself. But here you have a component which is part of a hydraulic heating system. And there you have to watch it, that everything is well tuned. Otherwise, air, water, heat pump A2+, labeled in an existing building, 1970, you may only reach the COD in practice. Then there are different labels that need some time before consumers understand it, which is kind of unfortunate, but it's here and we have to live and do with it. Also with different scaling and different requirements. The best storages, for example, which are sold nowadays, reach C. If you now add 5 or 6 centimeters, you get into B, but to reach A is almost impossible. But if the same storage is used in the product package, you may reach A2+, A3+ all of a sudden, which makes it very complex and complicated. And there are also different energy sources. Here on the German market, with relatively low gas prices for the time being, relatively low oil prices, but relatively high electricity prices, it may be that you get equipment which is labeled better by 2 or 3 categories with higher energy costs. So these are factors where there's a difference to other equipment. In a fridge, better energy class always means better energy efficiency and lower energy costs. Hence, you need to take a closer look at it. Of course, you keep doing something all the while, also in terms of protection of the environment. But, well, you have to take a closer look at everything in perspective. You will find the labels everywhere on the fair, and of course, you can also take along the brochures in which you find more details on what I have just presented here. And while the obligation comes becomes effective as of 26th of September. Of course, all of us, including all the experts, are still in a learning phase in order to implement this complex system and take it to the final customers and consumers. But it is quite an ambitious task, and if we make it, of course, it also makes sense. It will be advantageous when this label can be used also in other areas. And this can certainly be crowned with success also regarding heating technology. Thank you for your time.